Hello, everyone. My guest today is Don Berger. He's the founder, VP, and general manager of the Washington, D.C.-based Social Tables. Founded in 2011, the company provides event sales, marketing, and operations software, which have enabled over 250,000 planners and 5,000 hotel and venue professionals to execute 4.5 million events. The company was recently acquired by Cvent. Don, you ready to take us to the top?
Let's do it.
All right, man. So tell us quickly, before we get to kind of where you're at today, give people context on what the company does. And are you, or were you, or are you today still a pure play SaaS company?
So I started the company 8 years ago, and initially we were just seating chart software. And as we kind of built the product and realized there's a market need for something greater than seating chart software and event management, we developed more and more tools to help hotel professionals and event professionals create more successful events. So basically our software is cloud-based. You go online, you can edit, you can choose a venue, look at the floor plan, start editing the floor plan, invite people to collaborate on it, and then build a successful event as a result of that.
And it is pure play SaaS.
Pure play SaaS.
Interesting. Okay, so a lot of people that I've had on that are in the event space, they call themselves a SaaS business, but when you look at the economics, it's so seasonal and difficult. And sometimes people will say, well, we're just going to charge kind of a per event fee. And others have customers that, do 30 events a year, and it makes sense to have a SaaS model in that way. How do you handle kind of the seasonal nature of the event business?
Sure. I think most people, when they talk about events, they automatically think about serving the event planner. So let me just take a step back. I think event planning is like sales. Everybody does it. They just don't realize they do it. And it's not necessarily in their title, right? I'm sure we planned an event just coordinating this interview in a sense. Yep. And there's 27 million meetings in the United States every single day that are either one-on-one or giant conferences. But most of the software in this space serves the event planner. We targeted event planners early on, but then realized exactly that. We were charging one-time event fees, and that wasn't sustainable or predictable. So what we did is we went after the hotel professionals, and over time, we saw a total shift. We used to serve 20% of our customers were hotels and venues. Now it's 20% of our customers are actually event planners, and 80% are hotels and venues. That's who pay us the majority of our revenue, and 100% of our revenue is recurring. And we serve the hotel and venue professionals who put on the event, and they, as a result, serve that software to their clients.
Interesting. Okay, so give me a general sense here of kind of what segment you're targeting. And I'm sure you have a bunch of different customer cohorts, but on average, what's the customer paying per month or per year for this?
On average, between 4 and 5K.
Okay, interesting. And that might be like the Marriott in downtown DC that puts on an event every weekend.
Exactly. And the reason why hotels are so interesting is because even though there's only like 7 major chains in the world that own a majority of the supply, the reality is that it's a very owner-operator type business. Hotels and venues are essentially small businesses. I mean, they're operated relatively independently, even though they're mostly franchised. So we do go door to door for the most part. And of our over 5,000 customers, almost all are contracts with the individual property.
Interesting. Okay, and earlier the price point, you said that was ACV or monthly price, 4,000.
That's ARR.
Okay, got it.
So ACV would be plus the setup. So ACV is about $5,000.
Interesting.
On the first year.
Are you pulling? Are most of those payments? Are you kind of pulling them all forward in one chunk, or they are paying monthly?
Absolutely. One of the things that was critical to our success is and Bessemer really liked this. Bessemer did our A round and then followed on our. One of the things they were about as the unit economics made sense. Back went up a little bit, but it was in the beginning 12 months, and that's because we collected that fee right away. So it was 30-day net 30 pay up front, and it was all ARR, not MRR, which I think was critical, especially early on in generating the cash flows needed to run the business.
So how much you mentioned you raised? I know you launched in 2011. How much money did you raise?
22 and a half.
22. Okay, and that was all equity, or was there venture debt built in or anything?
It was, that doesn't include any debt. We had another venture debt of $4 million.
Okay. Do you so this is like it's a hot topic.
Count venture debt and how much they raised?
No. But sometimes people just mix it up without even realizing it. But I am curious to ask you. So there are venture debts kind of getting hotter and hotter as people go, wow, I can maybe use this to grow without getting diluted. I mean, would you recommend it? Did it work well for you?
We got it as, when we sold, we had over 10 million of cash in the bank.
Yep.
And what I think venture debt helped is kind of in 2 ways. Number one, it gives you an insurance policy. And number two, when speaking to enterprises, you can say you have more cash on the balance sheet than you may actually have had if you didn't do the debt round. So I encourage it as more of an insurance policy. We never needed it. Because if we weren't going to be sold last quarter, we would have been EBITDA positive we would have been profitable this year, and we're still going to be profitable as a business unit. So I think it's a good idea, but for the right reasons. The New York Times had an interesting piece about how more and more founders are choosing do away with equity rounds because of the VC style, the impact that VC raising is having on startups. So I think it's up to the founder. At the end of the day, my philosophy is raise money and dilute yourself because that increases your chances of success. And so take a 10, 20% hit early on in order to have a much bigger enterprise value going forward.
Yeah. I'm curious here about, actually, let me just ask this. So you have $4,000, $5,000 year one kind of ACV, 5,000 customers. I mean, that would put you at like $1.7 million a month, right? I mean, is that about right?
It's a little more than that. It's a little more. We're seasonal by quarter. So Q1, Q4 are very busy in hospitality and events. Q2 and Q3 slow down. We try to balance that with actually serving the university market. About 500 of our customers are universities,
okay,
and they have events year round. So that's a good kind of tip for founders. If you have a seasonal business, try to find something tangential and adjacent to what you're doing in order to kind of smooth out your seasonality. But I mean, you're on an annual basis, on a monthly basis, we probably do about between 2 and 4 million.
Okay, good. I mean, okay, so then you've definitely crossed kind of the 20 million ARR mark at this point.
Yeah, we just crossed it we literally crossed it in December.
Okay, congratulations. That's great. So let me ask you, and we'll get to the acquisition in a second, but now that, and you're part of another company now, so there's planning there coming from other people, but what are you hoping to hit and grow to this year?
We'll grow 35% this year.
And where were you exactly a year ago back in January 2018?
We grew 25% last year.
Okay,
so
good.
We're seeing this acquisition having a real impact on our ability to sell more.
Yeah. So 25% year over year growth. That means you were doing what, like $15 million in ARR about a year ago?
That's exactly right.
Something around there. Interesting. So the reason I ask that is because I always like to compare funding raised relative to ARR and what's the ratio. And it sounds like you were actually just crossing kind of a 1-to-1 ratio as you ultimately ended up deciding to sell the company. Go ahead.
If I can comment on that, I think we made a mistake a few years ago where we decided to go ahead and rewrite our entire core product instead of developing a new product. So basically taking most R&D resources and putting it towards building a new version of the core software. And that was a tipping point. And that kind of slowed our growth down. What we should have done is we should have said, hey, we're going to deal with some of this tech debt, these issues we've had with the core software and build a new product in order to keep growing. Because I do think that SaaS businesses that start slowing down their growth and are now doing the 40-50% a year do hurt their long-term chances of success. But we're seeing that kind of turn the corner now. So
wait, so hold on. So what's the advice there? You're saying ignore technical debt or knock it out earlier?
I'm saying, well, it's, you put me in a tough spot.
Sorry.
I don't think anybody should ever ignore technical debt, but I do think you have to constantly consider new products and innovation in order to not stunt your potential of future growth. So, if you choose, every decision you make in regards to R&D will have revenue impact down the line. So if you choose to rewrite your software and your TAM is a little more limited, or you're serving a specific vertical, you may not necessarily have the opportunity down the line to sell new software because you're not going to have anything in the pipeline in terms of innovation.
Interesting. Okay, very good. And round out the team for me. So what are you guys at in terms of team size?
We are right around 100.
All in DC?
All about half a dozen remote.
Okay, DC and remote. That's great. And then take me through some of the other economic.
Nathan, I'll just note that of those remote employees, all of them were in DC at one point.
So they were so good you wanted to keep them when they moved away.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think as an early stage company, it was important for us to have everybody in the same building and working together. We have an amazing, incredible space here, 30,000 square feet, like 2 blocks from the White House, and we were really proud of that space, and it would kind of be a shame to have everybody remote and not be able to enjoy that. So if you worked at Social Tables and decided to go remote, no problem. But generally, I'm not a fan of remote work.
Yeah. Round out some of the other economics here. So SaaS companies, churn's critical. How do you think about retention, and how do you think about churn today?
Dude, we knocked that out of the park. Our revenue retention is 105%. We're doing 95% in year. Bless you.
Thank you.
You want to reshoot that question?
No, you're great. So 105% net revenue retention, and you said you were going to say 95% gross. It sounds like with 10% expansion.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. The 10% expansion revenue you're driving to make up the 5% loss, plus give you the 5%, over 100% retention. Where's that expansion coming from? What are you upselling?
Sure. So there's three categories. One of the benefits of releasing a new version of your software is your ability to upcharge more. So instead of going up and saying 3%, 5%, you can say 10, 15% because we're giving you a new version of the software. So that's certainly helped. Upcharging is one component. The other one is the natural price increases that come in a SaaS model. One of the strategic decisions we made was having.
Wait, Don, sorry, what are those? What do you mean natural price increases?
I mean the 3% you have baked into your contract.
Oh, no, this isn't normal, by the way. Not everyone has this.
Oh,
so
really?
yeah, so just talk about how you built. It's essentially like almost like when you lease a place when you were a college student. There's a natural accelerator year over year on your rents going up.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And we had that baked in. But the thing is, one of the strategic decisions we made was to actually not have multi-year deals. And this can hurt valuation, so you have to be careful. But not having multi-year deals, if you have very high retention rates, you don't want multi-year deals because then you don't have an opportunity to increase the contract at a higher value. So you're going to be locked in that 2-3% annual increase over the 3-year period, over a 3-year term. So, but that gives us the opportunity to have those conversations with the decision makers on an annual basis to justify a larger price increase.
Mm-hmm. What percent of your
and then the third component is new products.
Yeah. And Don, what percent of your customer contracts today are on that 3-year kind of annual plan?
10% roughly.
Oh, not a ton. Okay.
No.
So I was going to ask you, you don't work with any of these firms that will basically pull forward a 3-year contract value, give you the cash today, and then basically bill out an interest rate to the customer as they pay over 3 years?
I think it depends on your resources. We have a really incredible account management team, and they are renewing constantly. They're doing 300, 400 accounts per person. So they're having those business reviews on a regular basis and are able to increase ACVs on an annual basis. That being said, if you don't have a big team, you probably want and you have a smaller ACV, you probably want to have multi-year deals.
Yeah. Real quick, back to the pricing axis question. Are there any, you mentioned some things like feature upsells, things like that, the 3% kicker. Are there any actual utility-based value metrics you're upselling against, whether it's number of events, number of seats at Marriott that's on you, like things like that?
One of the things we don't want to do, because we're essentially collaboration software for events. One of the things we don't want to do is limit the number of events or limit the number of users, because that decreases the amount of network effects we can have. So we have unlimited users. Because again, in a hotel, you want multiple people using it in different departments so that then you can go to those departments and sell them different products. So we have unlimited users, unlimited events. Where we do limit, the price is around square footage. So basically, the price is a proxy to the size of the event space a property has.
Okay, that's interesting. Interesting. So it's just based
and
on.
my advice there to founders is, figure out what is that currency that you can use to charge, and it really depends on your business. Obviously, users and number of units is kind of an obvious one, but there may be other triggers. It might be storage, or for us it's events. For us it's square footage. There may be other triggers that can increase your price if you tier it out.
Don, you mentioned your inside sales team. When you look at fully weighted CAC, what's that at today to get a new $5,000 a year customer?
How long is your LTV?
Well, you tell me.
So, it's funny. We had a lot of good conversations with the board around this. I've always said, if you actually do the LTV calculation, our customers stay with us way longer than 5 years. But the board was really adamant about not going past 5 years. So using LTV to CAC with 5 years, it's about 3.5.
Sorry, you said 3.5?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're basically saying you got a 60-month LTV, right? That's 5 years at $5,000 a month. That's $300,000, and so 3.5 would mean you're willing to spend up to what, 70, 80 grand to get the customer?
Well, for 30,000, not 300,000, not 300,000.
Are you sure?
6 years?
Yeah. 60 months times $5,000 a month.
Well, no, it's $5,000 a year.
Oh, my bad. Okay, yeah, 30,000. Yeah, okay, sorry. So yeah, take that back. You're saying you're willing to spend maybe up to $7,000 to get the customer.
Yeah, or even 10.
Yeah, okay, even 10. And okay, so by the way, you brought up an interesting point, because there's a lot of people that have healthy economics like yourself. And when you actually just do the extrapolation in the Excel sheet, it will say lifetime value is like, 40 years and $4 million. And if you use that to plan like your CAC, obviously you get in trouble.
Totally.
So like, how do you decide where to put like hey, let's be realistic, the Excel sheet's lying to us. Where do you choose to put that artificial height?
Look, I think when it comes to years, I agree with the conservative view of limiting it to 5. You don't know what's going to happen. And and what, maybe 7. Again, it depends on your retention. But let's just say it's amazing. Let's like ours, like 95%. So you cap it at 7. So you have that, and that's a static variable in your equation. The other part of the formula you can play with is obviously what is CAC. And again, we had very long conversations at the board level about this, and that's why we had an LTV to CAC, which was fully loaded, and then we had adjusted LTV to CAC, where the CAC was a little more liberal, because some of the things we don't want to include in the calculation started creeping up. Like, for example, where does product marketing fall?
Yeah.
As one example. So as a result, we had 2 LTV to CAC ratios, an adjusted one and a regular one. Our fully loaded one, the regular one, was 3.5, and our adjusted was 5.
Yep, and the adjusted would include those softer things that weren't maybe directly correlated, but could be.
The adjusted wouldn't include.
Sorry, would not. That's why it was a higher ratio. Yeah, very good. And then, so just to get us,
and I'll say our banker always. And it's one piece of advice. First of all, always have a banker.
Who'd you use, by the way?
We use Moreland Partners.
And you liked them?
Larry Phillips, incredible. Most bankers have a certain reputation. Larry Phillips and the Moreland team were total, like the inverse of that. They're extremely hospitable and patient with us, and we worked with them for years as first an advisor, then a retained bank, and then through the process, which was unsolicited, by the way. So then we had to run a process. Because the first offer was unsolicited. Uh-huh. And one of the things, and I really advise talking to bankers in your industry about this, because they will give you a glimpse into how acquiring companies will look at your LTV to CAC and other.
So let me ask you a question real quick. So you're saying, well, first off, when did the first connection between you and either Vista or Reggie, whoever it was, happen?
Oh my gosh, I met Reggie and team 5 years ago, maybe 6.
Okay, so call it 2013. Now, did you work most of this directly through Reggie, or did Brian and those guys get involved at Vista?
So I met Vista actually 2 years ago, and I met Donald Park over there. So and Brian Shea is obviously on the CVent board, as is Donald. And Moreland is the one who connected me to Vista 2 years ago. It was truly like I'm not bullshitting here. It was truly a slow and steady wins the race kind of thing.
Yep.
When we first met with them, we were a tiny little product.
What was your revenue back then when you first met?
Oh my God, it was 0.
Okay.
Our first revenue was maybe it was like $10,000.
Yeah.
But it was truly a process, and we mostly work with corp dev and then the executive team as things got more and more serious past the summer. The deal, we signed the LOI late August. The deal closed October 16th.
August 2018. You're talking.
August 2020. Yes, that's right. August 2018, we started talking, and the deal closed 2 months later.
Yeah, no, that's great. And the reason I ask when you say unsolicited something, I was like, wait a second, because Moreland is really well known for the deals they've done with Vista, whether it's People Admin or Aptian. They've sold a bunch to Vista. So I'm going, I thought you were going to tell me we knew Vista was a great fit. We retained Moreland because they know Vista really well.
No, not at all. And we talked to CVent even before Vista acquired them.
Yeah.
We talked to CVent, before they even went public.
Yeah.
And I want to just go back to one thing we talked about, because this is one of the really important lessons that I've learned at CVent, obviously under Vista and at Social Tables over time. It is so important for founders and CEOs to truly define the metrics that work for them. And what I mean by that is the LTV to CAC conversation is a perfect example where you figure out the metric that you want to report on, and you truly define it in concert and in collaboration with your executive team and with your board. But just using generally accepted definitions, and I'm not talking about GAAP stuff, like accounting is accounting, but I'm talking about the operational metrics and the other metrics and the KPIs you use to run your business, truly defining them, because they change from business to business.
Yep. Oh, and different ones are different leading indicators for different things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Very good. The deal price you guys did not make public, so we'll stay away from that. But let me just ask you a different question. A lot of founders, especially new ones, don't realize there's something called the deal price and then the payment terms, and they're very different things, right? Sometimes you have earnouts, stock, all kinds of crazy stuff built in. So can you talk to us about the percentage one way or the other? What was there an earnout component? And if so, what percent was cash versus earnout?
Sure. So it's an all cash deal.
Okay, great.
One of the things that, again, you don't learn until you sell a company is the deductions that may happen after once the deal takes place, and there's debt-like items that your price gets dinged on.
Like what?
Like tenant improvement, like deferred rent, those are two prime examples that are costly.
I don't understand walk me through that, because that's a space I haven't been through before. So what do you mean deferred rent?
So, for example, when you sign a lease like we did, our rent was $1.2 million a year.
Okay.
We got 7 months free rent, and that was a perk we received, and it's not one that Steven necessarily enjoyed in the beginning in the first 3 years. So we had to go ahead and adjust the deal price to take into consideration the free rent we received. Additionally, the tenant improvement, we got $3 million in TI from the landlord. Again, we had to look at that number and actually adjust the deal price based off of the free improvements we received from the landlord.
They would ding that down by if the deferred rent you committed to it for 5 years at 1.2 million, you take 1.2 million times 5 plus the 3 million in TI up front, and they basically ding it by what, $10 million?
Well, it wasn't 10 million. It was probably less than that, because it depends. It depends on how long you received that benefit without being owned by the acquirer.
Yep.
So it was over 3 years. So we got dinged by like $2 million.
Oh, that's okay. Not horrible. Very good. And then
as far as the terms,
which
you asked, all cash deal. Like I said, I have an earnout, and that earnout is time based. One of the things that founders want to keep in mind is it going to be tenure based and be performance based? Obviously, tenure is better because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what you don't know. And the other piece of it is
Don. What's yours? Tenure based?
Mine's 2 years. Mine's tenure based 2 years.
Oh, there are no performance metrics. They just said, we want Don. He's talented. Let's keep him in.
That's right. And obviously there's always going to be a potential bonus component that would be performance based on your salary. One of the things that an acquirer may do is try to argue, your comp is your base plus bonus plus, the earnout you have. And you have to stay away from that, because look, the deal price is the deal price, regardless of whether I got the money, all the money today or a certain percentage of it in the future. So whenever you have those conversations, you have to make sure you remind the acquirer that the deal price is the deal price, and your comp does not include future payments.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I always wonder though, when a founder like you, it's very hard to motivate a guy once they're made rich by somebody. So it's like, how on earth do they retain a guy like you when you're thinking, man, I just sold the thing, I've been hustling since 2011, I want to go explore the world right now for a little bit. What's keeping you motivated?
Oh my God, it's funny you say that, because I've actually never been as motivated as I am today post deal.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
And I'll tell you why. There's probably two major reasons. The first one is, if I ever want to do anything again, I have to understand what goes beyond 20 million. I have to understand what goes beyond 100 employees. And I can't get that, without working at a larger organization. It's almost 4,000 people. So that's number one. Number two, it is really inspiring to work around successful operators. One of the things I love about Cvent is that 11 of the 14 original guys are still there.
That's great. Yep. And
and they're celebrating 20 years this year. So, that tells you just how committed the team is, how well they work together, and how successful they've been. Very, very, especially considering the fact they've been public and they went private and they were owned by Vista. When sometimes private equity firms have a reputation for bringing on different management teams. So, Cvent has retained their folks. And so that motivates me. I go to work and I look up to the people I work alongside with or report to. And Reggie's a real inspirational leader. So I'm learning a ton.
That's good. I just realized we totally ran out of time, so let's wrap up here quickly. But first, real quick, it was reported and rumored the price was around $100 million. Is that fair? Can you comment on it?
I'm not going to comment on that.
All right. Let's wrap up with the famous five. Number one, what's your favorite business book?
I didn't know you were going to start with that one. My favorite business book is Predictable Success by Les McEwen.
Number two, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Reggie Agarwal.
Give me an under the radar one in DC most people don't know about.
Oh gosh. God.
Who's one you advise?
No. I'm literally. It's on the tip of my tongue. Come back to that.
Okay, we'll stick with Reggie. Number three. Before you guys were acquired by Vista, what billing tool were you guys using?
What?
What billing tool were you guys using, or was it all invoicing?
Yeah, we were using QuickBooks obviously for accounting, and then Zora for the the revenue recognition and quoting and all that.
Yep. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
Between 5 and 7.
That's good. And situation, married, single, kids?
Not married, no girlfriend, and no kids. I have a dog. I think
I was going to say he's behaving very nicely back there.
He's watching.
All right. And how old are you?
I'm 37.
Last question. Take us home here. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
That learning how to program was the best thing I could have done at that time.
Guys, learn how to program early as best as you can. It will pay off in life. Coming from Don, again, founded Social Tables back in 2011. Now over 100 people, all based in DC, and a couple folks remote. 95% gross revenue retention, 10% expansion, 105% net revenue retention. Again, serving hotels mainly. Over 5,000 of them, paying on average, call it $300, $400 a month. So they just passed $20 million in terms of run rate. That's up 25% year over year as they move towards break even before the big Vista acquisition via Cvent. They raised $22.5 million prior to that as they look to scale. Again, being semi-aggressive on CAC, paying $7,000 to get a new call at $5,000 per year customer. So 16-month payback. Again, deal was all cash. Don now working hard on the earnout and learning from the Cvent team. Don, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thanks, man. I really enjoyed it.